Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about a very important statement given by none other than the DG ISPR. The DG says that the Indian misadventure to get befitting response. If you remember that this statement has also been issued by the Prime Minister, by the Chief of Army Staff, as well as now the spokesperson of the military, DG ISPR. The interesting part is that as far as you talk about the violations as far as the LOC is concerned, interestingly, he reported that 1,229 ceasefire violations have been conducted by the Indians during this period, this year, 2020. So you can well imagine what exactly is going on out there in that particular region. Nobody is safe, nobody can sleep properly because of the Indian shelling, the use of mortars, the use of heavy artillery, and obviously when we talk about the firing, it doesn't stop there. That is unfortunately the life of a normal civilian living across the LOC towards our side of the part. Now, this is something which has been going on, but during the recent years, the kind of threats issued by whether General Manoj, their Chief of Army Staff, or the head of their defense, General Ravan, or you talk about their defense minister, or for that matter, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, talking about the false flag operation and talking about teaching a lesson to Pakistan. The point is that the time has come that Pakistan should teach a lesson to the Indians. Now, it is very obvious, very clear that the Afghan soil is being used by RAW to destabilize Pakistan. Simple as that. One single short statement that tells you the story. Now, on the other hand, when you talk about the Indian issues regarding the Chinese border, that is also going on, whether you talk about the area of Sikkim or you talk about Ladakh or certain other areas, but they do not dare to challenge the Chinese because China is a much more powerful country, much bigger, with a better army, better technology, and as far as their military, that is called the People Liberation Army, is concerned, I think one of the best forces in the world. So the Indians do understand that, and with the Chinese, they don't even dare to cough twice. Now, the problem is when it comes to Pakistan, there you go. The Foreign Office has also given certain statements saying that the state policy of India is totally about the terrorism and terrorists from India traveling to Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan they enter Pakistan, or they are operating along the border towards the Afghan side. And this is something which is very obvious. Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, one of the most brutal, and I would say one of those state organizations of India, let me put it this way, state-sponsored organization of India, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, that has been involved in thousands and thousands and thousands of killings. Not only the military, you talk about the law enforcement agencies, you talk about the civilians, children, their school, universities, you talk about elderly, talk about banks, you name it, talk about the marketplaces. They have been blasting those areas, killing thousands and thousands of innocent Pakistanis. Now, this is not on, and this is primarily, again, something where the Indians would like Pakistan to get into a position where the Indians would like to start something. When we talk about start something, means some sort of a misadventure. To talk about this, we'll be talking to Air Vice Marshal retired Ikramullah Bhatti Saab, who's a senior analyst and very senior military and defense commentator also. Thank you very much, Ikramullah Bhatti Saab. We'll also be talking to Kamar Chima Saab, who is a foreign affairs expert. And we'll also be talking to Ghalib Iqbal Saab, who is a former ambassador. And he was also a very senior diplomat and a former ambassador. Let me start from you, Ghalib Saab. Whatever I just said during my introduction of the show, this is something which is not new to Pakistan. We've been saying it for quite some time. We have been handing over dossiers to the United Nations, to the American president, and to all the, I would say, movers and shakers around the globe. And this thing is for sure, whether you talk about Balochistan or you talk about Karachi, KPK, or the border all along Afghanistan. even in Gilgit-Baltistan, we all understand that RAW, along with NDS, in combination, is working to destabilize Pakistan. Now, this has been stated by the Foreign Office, this has been stated by the DG ISPR, so many times it has been said by the politicians as well. Now, your take, Ghalib Saab, what exactly is happening and what do you fear could happen?
Whole situation, you have to think like an Indian, okay? You have to think like an Indian policymaker. What are they up to? Number one, they have issues in the occupied Kashmir because they have changed the status. They have revoked the articles. They have oppressed the people of Kashmir. Number two, on the other border, line of actual control with China, they are facing a problem and they really need to sort that out because without losing their territory, they wanted to jeopardize CPAC and they wanted to ensure that at a subsequent stage they can also create some sort of troubles for Pakistan in Gilgit and Baltistan. Thirdly, Indians are facing a lot of issues domestically. First is, of course, racism. Second is ethnic cleansing.
Okay, Ghalib Saab, if you allow me, sir, sorry to stop you here. I'll just get back to you, but we've been also joined in by the Foreign Minister, Shah Mahmood Qureshi Saab. Shah Saab, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Shah Saab, thank you very much for talking to PTV World and taking your time out. Shah Saab, first of all, we do understand what's going on in Afghanistan. Their soil is being used by the Indian fascist, I would say, the intelligence agency, RAW, and they have made so many plans to destabilize Pakistan, whether you talk about disturbing Balochistan or sort of going after the peace of Gilgit-Baltistan or Karachi for that matter, or all those major cities all along the border. Now, this has been stated by the DG ISPR, by the Foreign Office. You yourself has said it on multiple occasions. Now, sir, what exactly is brewing out there in the corridors of power of India?
Well, India is in a very dire condition. Their economic situation has become very, very serious. The corona virus has been grossly mishandled over there, and many sections of society are not happy with the kind of strict lockdown enforced in a very haphazard way by the BJP government. The situation in the Indian occupied Kashmir is rapidly deteriorating. Now, to divert attention, they are trying to look for an excuse for a false flag operation to divert the attention. They know that they are being criticized by the international community. Just look at the latest letter written by 15 members of the European Parliament to the President of the Commission, highlighting human rights violations and atrocities and trampling of fundamental rights in Indian occupied Kashmir. You have seen how the international press, New York Times, Washington Post, Guardian, and the rest have been very critical of the excessive use of force and the brutalities being exercised by occupation forces in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir to quell and to suppress dissent. They are being excessively oppressive, and there's a reaction to that. So they are trying to divert attention, one. On the other hand, on the Western side, Pakistan is facilitating the peace process. Pakistan has welcomed the new political agreement between President Ashraf Ghani and Mr. Abdullah. We are happy that the release of prisoners is taking place. We are happy that there are now brighter chances of an intra-Afghan dialogue. We were happy to see reduction in violence in Afghanistan. But let me add, the Indians are not happy with that development, and
Yeah.
they are playing the role of spoilers. They are not just using Afghan soil against Pakistan. They are creating trouble and dissent within the Afghan polity for their own ends.
All right. Now, Shah Sahab, there are three different sections when you address this problem. One is the use of Afghanistan, uh, whether we talk about the soil or we talk about some government machinery that is also supporting. Obviously, something is happening out there in Afghanistan. I am totally not ready to believe that the Afghan government or some of the major, I would say again, the decision makers do not know about it. You talk about Iran, Shaji. Iran also, I'm not saying that the magnitude of the issue is as big as that of Afghanistan, but still there are problems. Lately, we all know what happened out there. Soldiers were killed, 6 of them, including one officer. Again, then there was another attack. And this is something pretty regular, just very close to the Iranian border. And the third most important part is regarding Kashmir. You mentioned that in detail. Now, sir, since there seems to be a very, I would say, strong standoff between the Chinese army and as well as the Indian military. Now, the point is, sir, when we talk about the strategic importance of that area, we've also learned that this is something which could be, if not handled now, at some stage, if India builds those roads, builds the bridges, that is hardly 8 miles away from the KKH. That could be a problem for CPEC, obviously. What exactly the government of Pakistan is doing regarding that, and are we on board with the Chinese and the development taking place there, sir?
Well, to begin with, let me say that CPAC is a flagship project of China, very important for them. Pakistan recognizes it to be a game changer. We think that this economic corridor is very important for our economic development, not just Pakistan's economic development. It's a very important project for regional connectivity and regional development. China and Pakistan would collectively defend CPAC. We have a joint interest, and we are working closely in close coordination of this project. And any force that tries to undermine this project, we will collectively devise a joint strategy to diffuse their designs.
Now, Shaji, the man looking after this affair is General Bajwa. I'm talking about General Bajwa, was the former
Arslan
DJ
Bajwa.
ISPR, General Arslan Bajwa. Now, the point is, sir, do we have some sort of a collaboration, or are we looking on those lines where CPEC could be saved, CPEC could be practically, we should make sure that the Indians should not sabotage that product. Are we in alignment with the Chinese that for God, I mean, in any case for that matter, God forbidden, if there is something that the Indians plan to do, China and Pakistan will collectively fight it out, sir?
Well, let's not be excessively alarmed about it. The Indians are fully aware of the Chinese interests and intent. They are fully aware of Pakistan's interests and intent. They are fully aware that China and Pakistan have serious reservations on the illegal annexation of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. We have serious, views and objections to the bifurcation that has taken place and the loss of identity of Kashmiris. And we feel collectively that this is a violation of international law, of the UN Charter, and the Security Council resolutions. So they should not remain complacent that China and Pakistan would sit idle and let them fulfill their nefarious designs.
All right. And Shahzab, would you like to also comment on the previous question regarding the issue with Iranians? Because the chief of army staff, along with very senior officials, immediately went there, and I'm sure they must have talked to the Iranian leadership there as well, sir. Any development on that? And when we talk about Afghanistan, sir, what exactly do you see happening in the coming days and weeks? Do you think this government, which the Afghan government I'm talking about, was totally unable to deliver when Ashraf Ghani plus Abdullah formula was implemented by John Kerry? Still the same formula is applied. Do you think this time it is going to work?
Well, it's slightly different this time. This time they're trying to be more inclusive. It's not just Abdullah Sahab and Ashraf Ghani trying to reach some sort of a political arrangement. They're looking beyond that. We hope that an arrangement comes about where elements that were not part of governance in the past are also consulted and incorporated and brought into the mainstream to achieve peace, stability, and prosperity for Afghanistan. As far as Iran is concerned, Pakistan has cordial relations with Iran. Since this government has come into office, our relations have improved considerably. There have been a number of exchanges, visits. I have been to Iran. The Foreign Minister, Jawad Zarif, has been here a number of times. We stay in touch on the telephone, we exchange notes, and there's a good understanding that we have developed. And we also have developed a good understanding on the management of the Pak-Afghan border that we would want collectively to be a border of peace.
All right. Shahzad, thank you very much for your comments and for your time. Once again, so thank you very much. That was the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi. Primarily, he was talking about the LOC. Very informed that the Indians, it seems the Indians are looking for a false flag operation. And we all know what that means, that they'll end up targeting some place or maybe end up violating the Pakistani airspace and doing a drama which they did earlier, and then blaming Pakistan for something. The point is that Pakistan has not allowed that earlier. Pakistan will not allow this time, and will definitely give them a very befitting response. Regarding Afghanistan, he also cleared what exactly is going on. Obviously, the role of Pakistan is not acceptable to the Indians, but things will settle down. He seems to be pretty optimistic. And regarding Iran, again, he said that the Foreign Minister, Jawad Zarif Saab, is very much in touch, and we are discussing issues with them, and there are problems, but joint border patrolling seems to be the right mechanism, and obviously the border fencing. Now, that is also something important. If you now moving on to our guest earlier, we were talking to Ghalib Kamal Saab. Let me get back to you, sir. I hope you heard what the Foreign Minister said. Now, things seem to be very much in control, not out of control. He seemed to be pretty optimistic. But, sir, generally it is perceived and believed that whenever there is a situation, global situation I'm talking about, there is recession heading towards a depression, unemployment on a rise, inflation on a rise, unrest all over the world, corona for that matter, is something which has jolted the entire globe. And now it seems that a lot more is happening. Do you believe that under certain circumstances, Indians can dare to go for a false flag operation? Ghalib Saab.
Before we talk about the false flag operation, let me correct one thing. The name is Ghalib Iqbal and it's not Ghalib Kamal.
Okay? I'm so sorry, Ghalib bhai. This okay.
And secondly, before we were talking, before the Foreign Minister gave his statement, and he covered more or less everything what is happening around the world now, around our country now at the moment. I was just wanting to make a point that India at this particular moment, they need to divert the attention of their own people, because they want to ensure that the domestic politics is not tilted towards a side which goes to the negative side of the ruling government at this particular time, which is Mr. Modi's policies, whatever he is doing over there, it has damaged India considerably economically. And second point is ethnic cleansing. And third is the racism, which is very rampant in India at this time. Now, what they want to do is, because they're looking for a weaker side where they can divert the attention, and rather than handling it at a domestic level, they want to cross the borders and internationalize the whole issue. Because of, you are saying, economic recession and economic depression and a lot of things happening because of COVID-19, I think the world is changing. In fact, it has already changed during the last
Correct.
80, 90 days completely. So we are looking at a totally different world, and we are looking at a totally different and new world order. This new world order will change the norms of interstate relations. It will change the ways the relationship is conducted between two states or multilaterally. When we say that India is trying to divert the attention, that is a hard reality which we must keep in mind, irrespective of the fact whether things are changing around the globe or not. The mindset of India has not changed and it will not change. We need to ensure that we preempt. We need to be cognizant of the fact that India is going to divert the attention from the domestic issues and go across the line of control or the international border or the working boundary. We want to make sure that Pakistan is fully prepared, and Pakistan is fully prepared, no, because there's a human psyche. People, when they are unable to see anything, they do not believe in that. Same is the situation about COVID-19. You can see in your own country or the regional countries or globally. People have not seen it, so they don't consider it as a reality. Pakistan has been fighting a war against terrorism for the last 12, 14 years. And our troops are battle hardened. They have fought a war. They have fought a war against an enemy which was not visible to them. Same mindset, but they have fought that war and they have won that war. Our troops are battle hardened. Indian troops are not battle hardened. Indian troops will not be able to take the pressure of a war, whether it's limited or a long duration war. It is going to be very difficult for India because with this economic condition, they cannot rely on America also. American economy is also going down very fast. And American
is
economy
in a turmoil, correct? Indeed. Now, Ghalib Sahab, let me also engage Air Vice Marshal retired Ikramullah Bhatti Sahab. Bhatti Sahab, first of all, sorry for engaging you, at this time because earlier we had the foreign minister with us. But now, Ikramullah Bhatti Sahab, first of all, your take on the statement of the DG ISPR, and then let me add another very important point here. Now, Ghalib Sahab was talking about the new world order. We do understand, sir, that maybe after the Second World War, a lot of things changed. A lot of institutions came into being as well, including United Nations. But now when you hear Donald Trump saying that we will stop the funding of WHO, World Health Organization, which is a part of the UNO, or for that matter, we give 11 times more money than China to the WHO, but it seems as if WHO is subservient to the Chinese, despite we give $440 million. Now, my point is that at some stage, do you see certain bodies dissolving or being converted into some other institutions, or maybe United Nations being replaced by some other group of countries, or the 5 permanent members of the Security Council end up becoming 7 or something? Do you see that kind of a change, sir?
No, I don't think so. That we can anticipate such a change in this environment. And essentially, I feel that Mr. Trump is trying to find an excuse or hide behind China and showing that it was Chinese carelessness that spread this virus in the world, especially in the US. And he's also blaming World Health Organization for that, and he wants to, or he's already stopped their funding, and thereby diverting again the attention of his own people and of his critics in the world that it is essentially because of China and because of poor management of the world World Health Organization that the virus has spread not just in the US but all over the world. And of course, with this pandemic, the relationship between states is going to be a bit different when it is all over, because there is going to be a realization that it cannot be globalization as used to be earlier on because of interdependence and free travel. But now, of course, all that will have to be restricted. Nation will have to be a little more dependent on themselves and less interdependence on others. And of course, there will be not so much of flow of people or goods across the oceans or in the skies. So I think, and that is also going to affect the relationship between the countries. I agree with the Khalid that such a change is going to come about. Now coming to our area, I think while we do look at India as finding a reason to divert attention, both domestic and international, and looking for an opportunity to engage Pakistan in a military adventure. But at the same time, we would also recall that when on 5th of August, the Indians abrogated 370 and 35A. They call it something as a mission accomplished because this was something that they had promised in their manifesto that they would change the status of IHK and then merge it into their own territory. And that is what they have achieved. And having done that, they even started to talk about Gilgit-Baltistan and talk about the Azad Kashmir. So now when they move into start making a new infrastructure in Ladakh, which does indicate a continuation of what they had said. So I think we must look at it from that point of view as well, that it is not happening without any context, but there is a background to it, and which they have already revealed by
AVM
stating
Saab, you're a very
that
seasoned and senior defense analyst. If I may put another question here, that don't you think that Pakistan and China, I'm not talking about the total BRI, BRI is a much larger concept, and a part of that BRI is CPEC. Now, when it comes to CPEC, obviously it starts from China Pakistan economic corridor. Don't you think that Chinese and the Pakistanis should have a joint strategy? Because if you look at the Malacca side, sir, Chinese can be blocked. Look at the situation developing in the South China Sea. So many American allies plus top military presence. The assets which the Americans have there, it's unbelievable. I mean, look at the number of aircraft carriers they have there. Look at the kind of forces they have deployed. So that area is also pretty tricky. So when you talk about China being connected to the rest of the world, this is the way forward, or this is the actual area. So Chinese technically, because I asked this question to the foreign minister also, the Chinese practically are 8 miles away from the KKH. So that is the area where they were trying to build bridges and they were trying to connect. At some stage, if they want, they can just go after that. They had a battalion, later on they got a brigade, and now I'm sure General Manoj is definitely beefing up the security there as well. Any dirty design the Chinese, which you believe, they could have in their mind in that area?
Well, you meant the Indians being 8 kilometers from KKH, not the Chinese. Anyway, my take on this is that, CPAC is a joint project of both China and Pakistan, and there are very serious interests of both the countries involved in it. And while it is Pakistan's earnest desire and intent to let this project be completed and and give its fruits for the well-being of people of not just Pakistan but of the region, I think that the Chinese are equally involved in it, and it is equally their responsibility. It is equally their project, and I think the security and the progress of this project is equally in the Chinese interest. Though we may not have a document in black and white or an agreement in black and white that there'll be a joint security arrangement or a joint protection or a joint defense of this project. But I think it implies all that because it is equally in China's interest. And while Pakistan looks forward to its completion and reaping its benefits, I think Chinese are equally, if not more, interested in its completion and its security and defense against any disruption. So I think it goes without saying that the Chinese are equally interested, if not more interested, in its protection and defense and its completion as per its original plan. So I think
All
we
right.
can keep that in mind, that is something which China would ensure, China would be looking forward to, and would make sure that this project is not disrupted.
All right.
And at the same time,
Let, sir, please go ahead, sir.
okay, at the same time, you see, when we look at any misadventure from India in this regard, I believe there are three prerequisites for any such adventure or misadventure that the Indians may contemplate. First of all, they have to come up with, with an excuse or a justification which is domestically and internationally accepted as a cause for attempting that. Secondly, they must make sure that it succeeds in achieving its objective. And thirdly, they must make sure that there is no retaliation, or whatever retaliation that there is, it is acceptable. Otherwise, if they cannot ensure all this, they will not attempt it. Now they did that in last year at Balakot, and their calculations went terribly wrong, and that is why they came
But
out highly
that
embarrassed.
doesn't mean that if they try it again, uh, this could be because once they failed, they lost a certain battle, but there is a constant war going on. You never know, they might go after that a particular area once again. But I'll get back to you on this, sir. Kamar Chima Saab, first of all, welcome to our show. Let me put this question to you over here. That is something very important. AVM Saab was saying that the Balakot incident happened and we were successful. They came in, they dropped the whatever sort of bombs, the Israeli bombs they were using, 500 pounders, some were 1,000 pounders, some were 2,000 pounders as well. They came, they dropped, they ran away. Next day, parked 20 of our planes, including Mirages and JF-17 Thunders, went and taught them a lesson and came back. And then there was an absolute silence. Donald Trump was in was in Vietnam, I guess, North Korean president, and they were having a meeting. And I still remember when we heard that they were more concerned about what was happening in the region. So things were diffused. Now, if something happens and in the same area, something happens regarding, of similar in nature for that matter, Gilgit-Baltistan is something they're eyeing on. They're looking at it, included in their bulletins because you also go to their media programs very often. Do you see something happening in that region, sir? And maybe we cannot underestimate the enemy. Maybe this time they will come much more prepared.
Well, sir, I think the discourse which should have been there after the Balakot strike, the discourse should have revolved around international law. And the discourse should have revolved around sovereignty. But unfortunately, the discourse is not on the sovereignty on international law. It has been categorized by the global community or the international community as a bilateral problem, and they can come and go and they are doing it. So unfortunately, this is not something which I call it normal, one thing. Second, they have changed the legal nature or the constitutional nature of the Indian occupied Kashmir. The third thing which you are mentioning is that they are looking out, they are eyeing for Azad Kashmir or GB, something like this. So it means that if their narrative or their perspective is taken as correct, that they came for the hideouts or something like this, the launch pads, then the international community accepted this. So I am of the view that the political administration, the Foreign Office, and the other concerned institutions, they need to revolve this discourse around international law and violation of sovereignty. Because next time, if Modi Sahib is to win the election in 2023, in 24, and then they eye for that, we spoke for Azad Kashmir, and they're talking in the parliament and they're giving these inflammatory statements from the political leadership of the BJP. And the normal discourse on Indian media, the normal discussion on Indian media is to go to Azad Kashmir, go to the Gilgit-Baltistan, and they are telling about the temperatures of these places as if they belong to them, or creating an environment.
Sir, they have added those areas in their map.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody's talking about it. Where is Maulana Fazlur Rehman, the champion of democracy and the champion of the Kashmir cause. Have you heard him
So,
saying anything?
yes,
I'm just giving you an example. I mean, forget when we say it has to have a political solution. No, sir, I don't see anything happening. It's been there for the last 72 years. There was a time when we were much more powerful than India. And now we're losing the battle on that ground. You talk about economy. Yes, India is a much, much, much larger economy. Recession is for everyone. You talk about their air force, you talk about their military, the kind of equipment they're having. You don't need supercharged men on ground. This is the time when you need one intelligent man and a drone. You know, it's all about technology. Things have changed.
yeah, true, sir.
Non-kinetic warfare fought
the,
with smart options.
yes, I think the one thing which we need to understand is that the Chinese have transgressed or had a face-off more than 400 times in this year with at the LSE line of actual control. And let me tell you, the Chinese soldiers are still present inside the Indian territory, and the Indians are not doing. And the defense minister Rajnath
Is
Singh
it
accepted
correct?
this.
Is it correct?
But
Sir, let me ask you something. I read it somewhere. Is that area with the Chinese, according to the Indians are saying that the Chinese have occupied an area of around 40 to 60 square kilometer. Is it true?
yes, since I think the Chinese are coming up with the perspective that the situation is controllable, the Indians are also not trying to tell much on this, but there are different versions which are coming because nobody is speaking actually correct. Even the Chinese are not saying our soldiers on the other side, but I think what I want to draw the attention, where there is an economy of $100 billion dependence, $85 billion import from China, they are cautious. Their media is not playing the war games on media. They're not showing. But when something happens at the LOC, they go out into the international community. They play up on the media and they create an environment. So I think this is where we need to look in that how things are being shaped, and this is not good in case we do not revolve around this discourse of international law and sovereignty.
Now, Chief Saab, quick comment before I go to AVM Saab. There was this the spokesperson of the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. He has, regarding the 11th report to the United Nations Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team. I mean, he has very categorically mentioned that Taliban and other associated individuals and entities constituting the threat to the peace, stability and security of Afghanistan to standard Pakistan, primarily blaming Pakistan for this. Now, let me ask this question, that this TTP versus the Taliban in Afghanistan, what do they have in common? TTP is one organization that is pain in the neck at the moment. When you talk about Taliban, I mean, we can always ask certain individuals to opt for peace, but you can't force them. You can't put put pressure and exert pressure on them. Sir? Chima Saab.
I think as far as this question is concerned of the Taliban, and we have been seeing that the Indians are funding them. They have been influencing Pakistan, and they have been carrying on these activities. And I think our perspective needs to have more clarification on this global stage, that we have fought this war, we lost everything, and even in return we are being blamed. I think somewhere we need a proper political expression of our sacrifices to the global community, and especially the way non-state actors are being funded against Pakistan, and we have to fund this entire fencing on Pakistan-Afghanistan border from our own funds, because we really want that this time things to be normal. But I think at this moment, India is looking at the world and they are engaging with everyone. But how we can have a word attention towards us is to create an environment of opportunity, and we need to tell the world this is not a place which used to be 10 years ago. This is a place which is a place of opportunity in terms of BRI, CPAC, and the environment is better. We have energy for the business community, and especially one last point, the supply chain is going to shift from China. Can we attract some market? Because India is going to attract that market. They have the youth. We have 60-65% youth. Can we attract that supply chain? Can we get some factories here in Pakistan? Because after COVID-19, the world believes that entire dependence on China for supply chain is not good for such kind of an economy which is dependent on
Well,
China.
obviously, a lot is going to change. A lot is going to happen. So many businesses from China would be transferred to India, for that matter, European businesses, American businesses. But anyway, thank you very much, Kamachima, for your comment. AVM Saab, now the ISPR has warned India, and you know the word he has used. He says uncontrollable consequences in case of a military adventurism. Okay, according to the former Chief of Army Staff, General Kiani, once I put this question, and I always give this example, that how do you judge the enemy? And he said, well, you have to see the capacity of the enemy as far as the assets, military assets, human resource, and everything is concerned, their strategy and whatever. And you also have to see the intention. If you have the capacity, but you do not intend to harm anyone, it's fine. If you do not have the capacity, but you have the intention, still you can harm. But if you have the capacity and you have the intention to harm, intentions can change. Overnight, capacity takes time. So in this case, sir, should we be cautious? What if India does it, sir? Let's put it this way. Yes or no? If no, it's good. But what if they do it? Are we prepared? Are we ready? Are we geared up?
You see, but Balakot is not too far behind. It's just a year old.
But sir,
And,
that is just
we-
one
we-
example. One example. One day. What I'm saying is that one battle, winning a battle doesn't mean that we won the war. It's a constant war.
True, but you see, borrowing words of General Kiani, we have to look at enemy's capacity. How has the enemy's capacity changed since last year? Because we see that nothing new has happened in terms of their capacity building. In fact, we see that their morale, their discipline, their armed forces is way below. And also, there is ample talk within their retired senior officers community and in their media about the state of affairs in terms of their preparedness, equipment, arms and ammunition in their air force and their army. And we also, all while they may have placed an order for a new aircraft for the Air Force and other equipment for other services, but the fact is, all that is yet to happen. And Mr. Modi had already expressed his disappointment on the capabilities of their own Air Force soon after the Balakot episode. And nothing has changed in the capability of the Indian Air Force since then. So I think their capacity has not increased, and as such, they are at the same stage as they were last year. And if they could not make any headway in that adventure that they attempted, I think they are not more capable than what they were last year. So
Now,
if they have learned
AVM
the
Saab,
lesson,
AVM Saab, no. Sir, talking about the Rafale deal, whatever the French are making, they are being even upgraded to a different level by the Israelis. Talk about S-400, sir, with the Russians. You talk about top-notch, I would say, these manless planes, which we call drones, more than 250 only in the Arabian Sea and that side. And then you talk about the kind of equipment they're buying from Israel, the kind of support and technology transfer that is taking between the Indians and the Americans. And then on top, look, Donald Trump is dying that Indians should invest. He was so happy. Chinooks, you talk about them, they're under the deal. You talk about manufacturing certain American, maybe certain planes from the Lockheed Martin or McDonnell Douglas will be collaborated with the Hindustan Aeronautical Complex and they'll be manufactured there. So many things are going on, isn't it, sir? Not talking about the military. Tejas have been introduced. Second squadron has been erected, and they claim that Teja is a fourth generation jet.
Well, you see, we are talking of coming weeks and coming months, wherein in terms of Indian capacity or capability to indulge into any such adventure in Pakistan or against Pakistan. But the fact is that even if all these capabilities get acquired, they come in Indian armed forces, it will take them at least next 2 to 3 years to operationalize them and get any operational capability. And at that would be the stage where we can say that, okay, yes, they have increased their capability vis-a-vis Pakistan, provided Pakistan has not proportionally changed its own capability. And only then we can say that, yes, India is in a position or not to attempt a Balakot or Pulwama type of adventure once again. So till that happens, I think we still have time. That's my take.
Well, let's see, sir. Let's hope that peace prevails. War is not a solution for any problem. War itself is a problem. But anyway, Evim Saab, thank you very much for your participation in our program. I would like to thank Ghalib Iqbal Saab, Kamar Shima Saab, and also the Foreign Minister, Shah Saab, for being a part of our show as well. But anyway, I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Khuda Hafiz from our side.